Hi, these comments are for R.R. Rodrigo, and I am Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of the lessons at OTCOnline-TOEFL-course.com. And you're doing speaking and writing practice today, right? So let's get to the writing first. We'll do the speaking second. Okay, so here we go. So here are the integrated writing rubrics, and this is the integrated writing practice test that you completed. So the reading passage, notice how you said pointed and then cast. So you don't want to mix your verb tenses. The reading points out three advantages of fuel cell engines, and in the lecture the professor cast doubt on these optimist solutions. So your first language is Spanish, right? So I think in your language you have three possibilities in English, right? So these three prepositions are difficult for you. So you may want to go to the grammar part of my online course and look at prepositions and and get some sample sentences using these three words. So the reading passage points out three advantages the lecture professor cast out on these optimist solutions. Optimistic. Yeah, I'm going to use optimist is actually a person, and optimistic is we're using it more as an adjective. So I think optimistic is the better word here. Okay, the author in the reading notes that internal combustion engines depend on petroleum, a limited resource. On the other hand, it is not feasible to finish with hydrogen, but there's something that you're not quite completing here. Something's missing here. Since it is found in natural gas and water, this specific claim is challenged by the author when suggesting that hydrogen is not easily I'm going to put when it is suggested. I think it's better here. So when it is suggested, or when the author suggests that hydrogen is not easily available since it has to be highly purified for its use. Moreover, she argues that requiring cold temperatures for its saving, hydrogen is not easy to produce or maintain. If you say neither nor, you might have that, but not easy to produce or maintain. So I think it's better to put or here. Second of all, the writer posits that hydrogen will finish with air pollution, a result of using internal combustion engines. Now, what do you mean by finish? Does that mean it will eliminate air pollution? It will get rid of it? You use that word again here, finish, and that's not very clear. It's not clear what you're trying to say. In addition, the article mentions that fuel cell engines only produce water. The lecture, in contrast, comments that producing pure hydrogen creates a lot of pollution since companies producing this material use a veritable amount of energy. Okay, that's good. And I would recommend that you try to develop each of these paragraphs closer to like paragraph 2. You need to get closer to 100 words in each of these body paragraphs. See, third of all, the author of the reading reports that fuel cell engines will be economically comparable with internal combustion engines since the cost of operation will be cheaper. Furthermore, now you want to put the article states right? If you use it in the beginning like that, you want to say states. The article states that hydrogen vehicles are twice as efficient as regular cars. Contrastingly, in the lecture, speaker believes that hydrogen-based engines need components made of platinum, a really expensive material. And maybe it's a metal. Moreover, she asserts that several attempts to use cheaper replacements have been done, and it is not possible to find a replacement for this expensive component. Have been maybe attempted, but it has not been possible to find a replacement for this expensive component. Okay, so the score here, let me go back. I think it seems like there's some information that you might not have completely explained. So you have minor omission, inaccuracy, vagueness, or imprecision of some content from the lecture, or in connection to the points made in the reading. A response is also scored if it has more frequent or noticeable minor language errors, as long as such usage and grammatical structures do not result in anything more than the occasional lapse of clarity or in the connection of ideas. So, yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Let's say 4.0. So I'm going to give you 4.0 or 25 points out of 30 on this practice test. You also completed an integrated speaking practice test, so let's see how you did on this.
Empathy. In the lecture, the professor talks about babies feeling others' emotion like empathy, which may then relate to others' emotions, and provides 2 examples to further illustrate this idea.
A little bit better on your enunciation. You are more clearly pronouncing the sounds in the words.
To begin with, he explains that when babies hear another baby crying, they start to cry as a result, and people think that it is because of the noise.
People think. They think that it is because of the noise.
In an experiment, babies were shown a recording of another baby crying, and they, as a result, started to cry, and researchers thought that it was because of the noise. However, the professor mentions that in another experiment, babies weren't shown.
In another, again, it's that medial sound, another. In another experiment,
A recording of themselves crying.
A recording of, let me listen to your grammar here one more time.
That in another experiment, babies weren't shown a recording of themselves crying.
A recording of themselves crying.
And babies did not cry, because they are related to the feeling of other babies, but not to their feeling of themselves. As a result, researchers think that it is possible.
So the experiment demonstrates that the babies were able to empathize with other babies when other babies were in distress, but they didn't cry when they heard their own voice cry because they knew that was their own voice.
But for babies to feel empathy. In the lecture, the professor.
Okay, so I think you did a little bit better on this one. So you thought about your pronunciation a little bit more, and you were pronouncing, I think, better the medial and the final consonant sounds in the words that you were speaking. I still think you can work on your pronunciation, right? You still need to work on that, and an area that can be helpful. I think it's speak clearly. I forgot the number, maybe 24. It's the TH. You need to work on the TH, the interdental consonant sound. I'm going to say speak clearly lesson number 24. In addition, I think studying intonation and trying to master what I teach in pronunciation lessons 36 through 40 is also important for you right now. All right, let me listen to it one more time, then I'll give you a final score. So I'm thinking right now around 3.
Talks about babies feeling others' emotion like empathy, which may then relate to others' emotion.
Which makes them, no, which relates these to other emotions. I would change that to relates, make it present tense.
Emotions, and provides two examples to further illustrate this idea. To begin with, she explains that when babies hear another baby crying, they start to cry as a result, and people think that it is because of the noise. In an experiment,
Maybe people used to think it was because of the noise, you might say.
babies were shown a recording of another baby crying, and they as a result started to cry, and researchers thought that it was because of the noise. However, the professor mentions
Not however, it's however. So after the transition word, you have a pause. Your tone needs to go up at that point because you're not done with that idea. And you also want to draw attention to that transition word of contrast. So again, you'd say, however,
that in another experiment babies weren't shown a recording of themselves crying, and babies did not cry because they are related to the feeling of other babies but not to their feeling
I would say because they were able to relate to other feelings of other babies, but they did not relate to their own crying.
of themselves.
So you had some problems with your language use right in there, right around 50 to 54 seconds.
As a result, researchers think that it is possible for babies to feel empathy.
And that's good. I like how you tie in at that final sentence, kind of shows how this information ties into this other idea. So that was a good connection. I think that you did have some language use issues and also some delivery issues. So I'm going to put you a little bit below 3. I'm going to say 21 to 22 points out of 30 on this practice test.